54321. 54321. Facebook land. Facebook land. How you doing tonight? Man, these lights mighty bright, man. I know I can cut off something, take off something, or whatever. But anyway, I'm just here tonight, just sharing a little information, man, and just chatting as I used to do, as I usually do, because I haven't been on maybe in a while, but that's okay, because sooner or later I was going to come back anyway. But, tonight we're just going to be chatting. I don't like to talk long, man. I like to say things that are relevant, somebody can use, marinate in their head to do them some good. Have you ever heard the saying, let me tell you something? You ever heard anybody say that? Let me tell you something. I don't like to use that phrase, let me tell you something, because somebody might tell you something you don't want to hear. But, I used to work, before I retired, working at the Smithsonian Institution. And sometimes as assistant security manager, I was assistant security manager there. Sometimes you have to have conversations with your staff, and, individuals will come in. They can't share their information with the supervisor. They can't share their information with the next next line of leadership. So they'll come and I'll listen. One thing I've never told anybody, let me tell you something. To me, to say let me tell you something is like saying, hey, I'm smarter than you. And there's always somebody that's going to be smarter than me, better than me, but there's always going to be somebody smarter, so I don't even trip off of that. But I always say, hey, let me share something with you. If I say let me share something with you, then it takes down the wall of defense. Individuals more readily to listen if you say, let me share something with you. And, I think sometimes that you can get more comfortable with a person when you're sharing information with them as opposed to trying to tell somebody something all the time. And then we just chatting. And the point that I'm making is about being authentic. You've heard, right now people talk about authenticity, being authentic. So let me just first of all clear up what authenticity is all about. Authenticity means accepting who you are and what you do well, and having the courage and self-confidence to share that in the world. Now, sometimes we get caught up in a thing called social mirroring. So social mirroring and being authentic can have a conflict, because if you're doing what somebody else doing, then you're not being authentic. True to your own personality is being authentic. Values and spirit, regardless of the pressure you're under to act otherwise. That's just being authentic. When I was working, they had a group, the Toastmaster group, and I love Toastmasters, always have. But one thing I found out about being in Toastmasters, you want to articulate professionally, and you want to articulate so individuals can hear you pronounce your words and things of that nature, and that's fine. That's just fine. I'm a country boy, being from a rural area. Of course, that wasn't a point about articulating words and things of that nature. As long as you got your point across, it was cool. Being authentic. Being authentic, and I'm sure you've heard also individuals use the phrase, with that said. Now, if you made a sentence, if you spoke a sentence to someone, and if it's clear and it's concise, you don't need with that said, because the sentence should have been explanatory enough to be explained or letting someone know how clear you are on the point that you're making. So with that said, it just added on information that's not needed. I mean, I see people on the news, man, they're making upwards of 100,000 or more, income, and they use filler words and if and it happens all the time. I just like to be myself, man. I just like to be myself. That's being authentic. That's being authentic. It's being yourself, being who you are, know who you are, who you are. And when I wrote the book, The Successful Sinner, I don't know if you can see that right there. The Successful Sinner, Change Your Choices to Change Your Life. When I wrote that book, it was written because I was sharing information about myself. But in doing that, something I feel always can be said to help somebody else, especially if you are being transparent about your life and you make yourself vulnerable to certain things. But, Cheryl Lynn, Sunday Son, hey, got to be real, got to be real. And that's what it's all about, just being real. And when I talk with individuals, being genuine, give you a sense of personal well-being, give you a sense of fulfillment, because you're not out there song gaming on you, Funkadelic gaming on you. A lot of people out there running them games, not being authentic, mirroring it, because that's just the way society is. A lot of times individuals don't think about, what they're doing is because of what they've seen, what they've heard. But one of the most important things about social mirroring and doing what somebody else does unconsciously, like, you might not think about it, but just like if I said the word damn, if dog was exchanged with damn, then dog would be a word that's negative in society, and damn would be a good word. But because of how we learn things, damn is a negative word, so you don't say it. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of things that we learn is not relevant today. But I don't want to be put in a box to have to think outside of it. So when an individual say, well, hey, you got to think outside the box. No, you ain't got to think outside the box. If you were never in the box, you ain't got to think outside of it. Everybody's different. Everybody has their own individuality. Everybody have their own different individuality. That should be respected. So the point that I'm making is, being for real is just being yourself, just being genuine. When I started doing videos, I never attempt to put something out that I'm not sure about what I'm saying. I'm going to do some studying. I'm going to get the correct information. And if you hear me say something that you want to challenge, so, just do it. Say, hey, Andrew, look, I heard you talking on FM about this or that. Man, you ain't right. You know what I found out when I looked it up? Hey, now I'm learning something. But the point of the matter is, I like being for real. I just like being for real. Social mirroring, we all do it. We all been through it. There is an awareness level that we grow into, and I think that helps a lot when you are aware of things that you don't have to fall within that trap. But again, with that said, of course you don't have to use that. I've heard it so much. I don't like using the phrase "with that said." If you said it and you meant it, then that's all need to be said. So, just chatting. We just chatting. I hadn't been on for a while, so I said, let me come on and do a little rambling. But the most important thing is being authentic, being for real, to thine own self be true. So if I can leave you with anything today, it would be, to thine own self be true, and hey, be for real.